man. Thank you for what you guys do, and appreciate you guys having me on.
We were trying not to score and everything. We hit about 30 threes or something.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of felt that. We kind of feed off that energy.
This place is amazing. Like I really love Duke, and I love the atmosphere I'm in here.
Mark Williams, beast mode. Paolo first half, he had the cramping stuff. Fair enough. Beast mode.
We're back. We're back, ladies and gentlemen, for a rare offline pod with no live interaction. I had to get Russ back on the pod, man, because we didn't have him last time. You know, needed his breakdown on his thoughts of St. John's. You know, maybe a little recap of his past the past performance this weekend. But yeah, we'll break down the St. John's game today. Sweet 16, obviously. We'll also, as I know many are expecting, be doing a ticket giveaway, as I mentioned last episode. 2 tickets to Friday's game, the way the prices are right now, I mean, this is going to be a blessing to somebody. So, you know, on behalf of the Crazy Cast, we're happy to give these away. And shout out to our friend of the podcast who offered to do it for us. But yes, we'll break down everything today. But Russ, man, how you doing, man?
You know, it's busy times here. I don't know if Zion said on the show, but my wife had a kitchen accident, cut her thumb pretty bad. And so she's all bandaged up, but she's all right. And the baby is going through what they call sleep regression, where in the middle of the night, or as he's going to sleep, he screams for long stretches.
Oh wow! Oh man!
So you know, it's just a sleep. Who needs it? I'll sleep when I'm dead. You know what I mean?
Just sleep in May, man. Just sleep in May.
I'm never sleeping because sleeping is the cousin of death. Was it? Who was that? That's Illmatic, right?
Yeah. Nah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling right now. I'm praying for the cousin of death right now.
Oh man. We gonna get you like John Rothstein says. You'll sleep in May, brother. You will sleep.
That's true. That's true. But that's a literal thing right now. I will sleep in May and not before. So yeah, but I got to watch the game. It happened after the game. It happened literally as we were about to start the podcast. I was sitting down. I'd clicked the link and everything, and my wife yells from the other room. She's like, "Hey, I need you in here."
Oh man, it was loud. It was a gory scene.
You know, it wasn't awesome. You know, when you look at like the stovetop where she was working, and I was like, "What's that right there?" Oh, that's a little bit of thumb. That's not cool.
Oh,
yeah, dude. It was not awesome. So she's all right. She's all right. It wasn't like bone or anything, right? It was just, but it was a we got to take care of this. It was a no mess around situation. So, but yeah, it happened after the game. I got to watch the game, and you know, I don't really have much to say other than we missed Big Pat. You know, like I'm sure you guys talked about it, but man, you've never seen a more clear indication of who the team is without him and who the team is with him than in that game. Where in the first half, where we weren't really able to play him much, and he still seemed a little rusty. We just didn't look very good. And then in the second half, there was a stretch there that just looked like classic Big Pat, and we went on some ridiculous run, and then the game was over basically. I mean, we play better defense, we play better offense, we draw more fouls. It allows Cam to positionally have the 5 that he really wants there. I mean, it just changes the game entirely. When you look at our stats over the last 5 games with Pat out and also with Caleb out, I don't want to dismiss the Caleb part of it because we've missed at bare minimum having his minutes, but especially when you look over the course of the season when Pat is not there, it's pretty stark. I mean, even the turnover thing, which has been a problem the last few games, when you look over the course of the season, the lineups with Pat, Cam, and Caden actually turn the ball over a little less than the lineups with Pat, Cam, and Caleb. But like when you take Pat out of the situation and it's Malik instead,
Right.
then we're turning the ball over like 6% more or something like this. I don't have the number right in front of me, but it's a stat. We go from like 85th percentile to like 35th percentile in turnovers, like just like that.
Yeah.
So, having Pat out there again, hopefully against St. John's for as much workload as he can handle. I don't know the specifics on, like I'm sure he's still like playing through pain, but
I would guess he's back to normal. Not
yeah, I would too.
Yeah. He
Yeah,
looked pretty fine for the most part.
In the second half, I thought he definitely looked fine. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm sure he's having to like grit his teeth a little bit, but he's also been doing that all season. And frankly, because I didn't get to talk about it beforehand, I think the people who questioned Pat because he was out and they were like, it's the tournament. Because like I guess coach said like he had soreness, right? And so people read that as like he's not hurt. He's just like sore, and people were like, I saw some people's takes being like, it's the tournament. You got to like what this dude has played hurt all year. Like he has been playing through multiple injuries, getting whacked to hell all year long. And yet there were still people questioning, the toughness or whatever of this guy. He might be the toughest guy on the team, on a team full of incredibly tough guys. So, yeah, man, if you ever think about stuff like that, if you're like, well, why don't you just you don't know what they're dealing with. Just shut up and wait for him. Duke doesn't give a lot of info. They play it close to the vest. I get that can be frustrating as a fan, but like, dude, people got to chill, man. Like, it's so ridiculous how the tournament sometimes brings out the worst in certain fans, not all fans, just certain fans. So, I'm overjoyed that Pat's back. I know that the fan base is overjoyed that Pat's back. And again, that second half looked like vintage Duke. So, fingers crossed we get that this week.
Yeah, I think people should also be grateful that Pat, with all his injury history, he's been fairly healthy for most of the season, And
I mean, it's been hand and wrist stuff, right? It's been stuff that he can play through generally. I know his history does tend towards feet, but obviously this summer he had a foot issue, right? And then he had like the hand wrist, whatever that is. He's been wearing the brace all year basically, or for a long stretch of it. Just a tough dude. And again, Duke, I think we're very lucky that we've had a number of guys who could have just called it a year for the purposes of like NBA combine health reasons or whatever, right? Like, but Zion came back and Coop came back, Kyrie came back. Pat's coming back. I know Pat's not going to be a number one pick like those guys, but like, he still could have shut it down, and he's out here because he wants to win. So I'm really grateful that we have a culture, for our team where we don't have like those guys. We don't have to hear all those things that other teams have to deal with sometimes, right? Like that.
The team in Louisville,
Maybe, obviously people questioned, at Kansas. I mean, like there's people questions at Kentucky. I mean, like there's a lot of
Kentucky too. Yeah.
There's a lot of that out there, especially right now. And to be clear, I don't blame a player for shutting it down either. Like you've got to preserve your health. You got to make your money. I don't mind that at all. Like to be perfectly clear, but as a fan of a team, I like having guys who want to come out and fight. And I think that Duke sort of, especially under Shire, really seems to be prioritizing a certain type of player more than anything else. I think it's really tempting. Hopefully in a couple of weeks, hopefully not before that, we'll have to talk about transfer portal and stuff like that. I know he likes to prioritize certain types of people, and then fans are like, go after the guy who scores 20 points again. He might not want to go that route. And, he's going to look culture first more than anything else, fit first. So yeah, I'm excited to hear about that sort of thing as somebody who likes to look forward. But again, we've got more pressing issues this week.
One more game,
thank God, One game at a time.
One game at a time. So let's talk about it. St. John's probably coming into our region as maybe besides us, obviously the hottest team in the region. Probably could say that
That
given
might be fair.
they're running the Big East and winning the Big East tournament as well. And the matchup that everyone has kind of coined as this is going to be the trouble matchup for Duke is here. So let's talk about it. What are your early thoughts on this St. John's matchup? Obviously, the biggest thing is going to be the press, but what are your early thoughts on that?
Yeah, St. John's in the month before the tournament started, was we were first per Torvik in the month before the tournament started. So yeah, I mean, like we were the hottest team. But St. John's ranked 9th over that month, right?
Mm.
Like they're basically a 3 seed, right? Like there's something like this over the course of the last month. So it's definitely a tough draw. I was rooting for Kansas pretty hard, as you know. They almost pulled it off. I like it's always a bit of an interesting thing when the other team has a guy who could go first overall to be like, I want to face that team, but like I kind of did. St. John's does have, I think, an interesting combination of things that Duke is really equipped to deal with and things that Duke might struggle with.
Right.
And vice versa. I think that we do a lot of things that will make St. John's life a lot harder, while also, again, having potentially some weak points that are their strong points that they might be able to take advantage of. First and foremost, obviously being turnovers. They're 88th percentile in forcing turnovers. Last 10 games, our turnover rate is 67th percentile. Last 5 games, 29th percentile. Now, again, that's with Pat on the bench for the last 5, right, for the most part. So maybe we can grain of salt that. But we're not exactly an elite team in avoiding turnovers. Especially of late. And again, I know that Caleb turns the ball over less than Caden. Again, normally I think Caden lineups as a whole tend to turn it over a little bit less than Caleb lineups, but hopefully maybe if maybe we get a little miracle and pull a few minutes out of Mr. Foster on Friday. Fingers crossed. Maybe prayer emojis in the chat. There's a little bit of smoke. It's hard for me to believe it until he's actually out there, but that would be great. I mean, again, having another ball handler against St. John's would be absolutely huge. Goes without saying, regardless of what the team does around him. I mean, just the idea that you give a guy a ball and you can trust him with it, I think would be really big. So yeah, that's something that St. John's is going to try to exploit. It would also generally force Duke theoretically to speed up. They want to play fast. We want to play slow. Now, Duke is kind of elite at slowing teams down. It's one of the things that they are absolutely best at. We're very good generally at transition defense. They want to score a lot of points in transition. I think they are 92nd percentile in fast break points per game. And in quad 1 games alone, not even talking on the season, quad 1 games, we are 81st percentile in defensive fast break points per game. That number probably goes up, in non garbage time games of all the rest of the quads, right? So we're a really good transition defense. They're going to have to reckon with the fact, hopefully, knock on wood, as long as we're not coughing the ball up, they're going to have to reckon with the fact that they're going to have to play half court offense. And our half court defense, when Pat is out there in particular, is very, very, very good. And their half court offense is less good. It's not great. They've been knocking down some shots. You got to give them credit. They've been knocking down shots in the tournament a little bit, maybe more than I would expect.
A little fake.
Might be a little fake. Might not be. I mean, maybe they're just the bouncier ball. Yeah, maybe they're just stepping up. They're definitely an experienced team in a big way, right? They're certainly way more experienced than we are. But maybe not more experienced as some of these guys in making a deep run. So maybe that plays a psychological role. I don't know. But Duke will slow St. John's down. I feel pretty confident as long as they don't cough the ball up, that Duke will slow St. John's down, make it a half court game. which would be great. We definitely don't want to fall for the traps. They're definitely going to also just like try to encourage Duke to shoot threes. I feel pretty confident in that.
Mhm.
On the season, they try to take the three away and force teams to just go in and try to score over Zuby. That's generally what they like to do. I can't imagine that's what they try to do against Duke. I have to think they're going to pack it in and force Duke to shoot threes. I mean, like, it's working for teams. It's working for teams. I think that's what's going to have to happen. Now, with Pat out there, maybe it's different. Again, maybe with Pat out there, if Zuby's got to guard Pat, because Pat's just so deadly with the high-low and with the screen stuff that they like to run up there, maybe it gets the team moving a little bit. Again, Zuby is a phenomenal defender, and they've got a lot of size. So this is a game where we don't necessarily have some pure size advantage at like the big positions.
We have the height advantage, not the length and advantage, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And also, I mean, like their guards, I mean, like Dylan Darling will be smaller than anybody that we throw out there. I mean, even Ian Jackson isn't like a huge guy. He's like 6'5", but he's not ripped, you know what I mean? But then once you get to like Bryce and Dylan Mitchell and Zuby, yeah, they're not 7-footers, but they're stout and they're big. So yeah, I mean, like it's not a size advantage game. I can keep going. By the way, I wrote down a bunch of stuff. I don't know if you.
No, I was waiting for you. I was waiting for you to slow down.
Oh, my bad, man. My bad. This is my first time back in a minute. You know.
No, you're good. You're good.
I wrote down all my stuff. So yeah, I mean, like I guess maybe that's the first thing to toss the ball back to you is just the turnover battle and vis-a-vis how that affects our ability to slow the game down. You know, your thoughts on that, maybe.
Yeah, I think my biggest worry is because we've been so turnover prone of late. That press is another beast. And obviously if we go back to the Final Four last year, the inability to inbound the ball and handle press was a concern a little bit. So I'm hoping, Shire has learned from that. And I think it's a little bit more worrisome now because we don't have a secondary ball handler with Caleb. Caden is probably going to shoulder a lot of that. They're going to try to maybe tire him out a bit, pressing him all game. Cam will have to take some of that, and Isaiah, Nick, like it's going to be by committee. So that does worry me a bit. But if Duke handles that, I did have a clip of Duke handling a press. Obviously, it's NC State. So NC State's press versus St. John's press is like Goliath and an ant. Like that's what it is. But they didn't do it. They were prepared for a press here. Obviously, St. John's is a lot more aggressive. They have way more length, but I think that's probably what Shire is going to be working on all week in practice. Because if Duke handles the ball and they do not turn over the rock, it's going to be very hard for St. John's to score. And I think that's where they would lose this game is transition, giving up, other extra opportunities. Because once it gets down to St. John's has to score against your half-court defense, which is one of the best, if not the best half-court defense in America, they're going to struggle. There will be a stretch where St. John's does not score for 5-6 minutes, or at least field goals. So I think it's important for Duke to not give up opportunities, and that even includes getting stops, because as long as you let that press not set up, then you'll be fine. Rebound the ball. Obviously, there's going to be dead ball situations where they're able to set it up, but as much as you can limit them getting into that press, then you'll be fine for the most part.
Yeah, I'm truly not concerned about the defensive side of things. I mean, like they could always just make threes, right? But like I think that Duke is smart enough on defense, and John's sort of an analytical type of dude. I think that we'll try to make them beat us that way, which I think bodes well. The biggest thing, really, you know, another number that I think is really important, where I do think we generally match up well, is their 90th percentile in offensive rebound rate, 96th percentile in second chance points per game, right? Like they can't shoot, but they're huge. So they get a ton of boards and they really crash the glass, especially because they're not really concerned about getting back on defense, right? If they miss and they don't get the rebound, they're just going to swarm you, right? They're not going to let up. And you know, Duke, if you look over the course of the season, the alarming game was the Florida game, where we gave up like something like a 47% offensive rebound rate to Florida that game. Like they smashed us on the glass. But we held Michigan to 8 offensive rebounds. We held Michigan State to 10% lower than their usual offensive rebound rate. Like, and those are 2 elite rebounding teams, or at least teams with sort of elite size that generally like to win on the glass as well. So, you know, again, I think it's a lot on Pat's shoulders, unfortunately. Like Malik, for everything that Malik does, and Malik, I do think could be very disruptive back in his usual role. But Malik is not the rebounder that Pat is generally, which makes sense, right? He's not as big, you know. That's not really his role. He's out there playing free safety a little bit, you know, whereas Pat is holding down the fort, protecting the rim, grabbing the boards, especially on the defensive glass. Although Malik did pretty well in Pat's absence, I will say. So maybe it's not that big a deal. But yeah, that's going to be huge to the point that you just made, because if we can get them into a half-court game, their notion is going to be, okay, cool, we'll just win the glass, right? We'll rebound 45% of our misses, get second chances, win the shot volume game. And if they win the shot volume game, then they might win, right? Then they're going to give themselves a really good chance. The other thing that pertains to that as well is their free throw attempt rate, which is 87th percentile, something like 85th percentile in terms of how many of their points per game come from the free throw line. Now, we are 99th percentile in defensive free throw attempt rate. We generally do not foul. The only team.
Don't tell that to Twitter.
Yeah, I know. Well, there are sometimes we fouled and it's not been called. The Duke. I'm a little appreciative actually that this season. I feel like in John's first couple of seasons, maybe Duke didn't quite get the friendly Duke whistle that Duke fans have generally been accustomed to. And this year, it's been maybe a little friendlier in some spots that matter, which is nice. That's a nice turn of events. Yeah, the only team that we've played that gets the free throw line more is Texas, and that was like the first game of the year, so it's hard to like read a lot into that. We did send them to the free throw line a lot. We just got to not foul, and in particular, Pat's got to not foul, which I think is gonna be really hard. He's gonna be faced with Zuby. Zuby is very, very good. He's very, very good at drawing fouls in particular. So yeah, man, he's got to be careful. He's got to be effective without drawing fouls. Yeah, Zuby top 25 in the country in free throw rate, top 30 in the country in fouls drawn per 40 minutes. Like he's a monster. So yeah,
I will say Duke does a pretty good job at least defending one-on-one without fouling. I think the fouls that, and even Pat himself last game checked into the game 3 seconds in, foul on a defensive rebound, you know, foul on Dame had a foul on a reach in with 2 seconds on the shot clock. Duke fairly does. I mean, when it comes to interior, I feel like they do a pretty good job of walling up. But you know, Zuby is definitely a little bit of a different beast in the fact he's contact searching and he's aggressive. Like he's a big bull. So you know, we'll see how Duke handles that matchup though.
Zuby against Providence shot 23 free throws. That's Bam Adebayo-esque, you know. So yeah, we just need Pat to stay out there because if it gets to Malik, then I think the defense becomes a lot trickier. Again, I think there's a real world in which Duke throws some more zone this game.
I was going to ask you. I was like, They shoot. I mean, they've shot really well of late. Don't get me wrong. Bryce Hopkins hit 6 threes. I think that was his career high last game. But they don't shoot the ball well. If we're looking at the full season, they haven't shot the ball well at all. They're one of the worst shooting teams in the country.
And they didn't shoot well in the Kansas game. It was just Bryce. I mean, like Bryce went total. Bryce went 6 for 9. The rest of the team went 5 for 26. You know, I thought that Kansas actually did a really effective job. Like St. John's took 34 twos and 35 threes. I mean, if I think that if Duke forces St. John's into that sort of shooting split, Duke's going to win. Like Duke will win if that's the shooting split, as long as we don't get absolutely demolished on the glass, which again, Kansas kind of demolished St. John's on the glass a little bit, which is pretty interesting.
They also had 17 turnovers, I think 16, 17 turnovers.
Yeah. Well, that's why they lost. Yeah, for sure. St. John's against Kansas shot 41% from 2 and 31% from 3, you know, at 55% from the free throw line and didn't get to the line that much. I mean, like that's the sort of splits that I would love to see on Friday. I mean, like, again, I'd hope they don't turn the ball over so much, but I mean, even against Northern Iowa, they shot 34% from 3. That's a little better than they normally do. I have to think that Duke's plan, because St. John's, again, 281st in the country in their 3-point attempt rate, sub 300th, and how many of their points come from threes. I have to think we want to try to make St. John's a jump shooting team on Friday. And generally, Duke is pretty good at that. As long as Pat's out there, then Duke should be pretty good at that. So fingers crossed, man. I mean, like that's the big stuff that fans need to look for is just the turnover battle, the rebound battle, the pace battle, the free throws. And then obviously I think the other thing that maybe without Caleb and the ball handling thing I think is worth bringing up is St. John's is elite at turning teams into isolation offenses. Like they do not let teams pass the ball around and get like, you know, clean assisted looks.
Yeah.
And generally that's what Duke's offense is. Like Duke's offense is very, very good at generating assisted looks. Now, I think that part of that is scheme and how Shire continues to improve in plays drawn up in that respect. So maybe it's not that big a deal, but if St. John's can effectively turn Duke into an ISO offense, that probably bodes less well for Duke, especially given that outside of Slim, I know Dame hit the step back 3 the other day, but like generally like jump shooting off the bounce, this isn't that team.
Yeah,
like this is not that team. If we have to generate off the bounce, we're going to try and get inside and score from 2, which given all the length that St. John's has is going to potentially be problematic.
All right, we're back after a little technical difficulty. So now I have a clip because I've been hearing a lot of the discourse with just online. Number one, obviously, I think people like Seth Greenberg have had St. John's winning this game for a while, but St. John's fans are kind of popping their chops. So let me play this clip real quick.
We ain't done. St. John's going to push Duke around. They're going to get in their chest. We'll do more preview like later in the week here. But the big grown man strength in the front court for St. John's, I think it's a pretty good matchup. Like, don't tell me that St. John's can't beat Duke. I actually think that they will, but we'll do that more.
That is the summary of New York sports radio every day at this point. Like, and you know, some people nationally have had the same sentiment too, that, you know, this team is physicality wise, Duke hasn't seen something like this. Duke can't really match up with the physicality. I just think that's a corny point at this point, because if you look at Duke's schedule, like they started the exhibition season with Tennessee. You know, they beat Michigan State, they played Michigan, they played Florida. Those are teams that you may argue are probably more physical than St. John's. So, you know, this narrative of physicality, I hate that word at this point, because I feel like people haven't watched Duke. If you don't think, like, coaches will tell you after if you watch every press conference after the game, one of the talking points for each coach is they're just a physical defense. Like Duke is
Yeah.
really physical. So all of a sudden, St. John's is the more physical team, and I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean Kansas is really physical too. We played Kansas. And also we beat all the teams that we just mentioned. Yeah, on one hand, I think that it's probably fair to say that St. John's, out of all of the teams, might be the team that's most reliant on physical play. I do kind of think that might be true. And again, their combination at the 3-4-5 with Hopkins, Mitchell, Zuby, that's the sort of thing that, again, it's not like the size of like, Alex Condon or Carson Cooper or some of these other guys, but like they're mean. Like TCU is mean too, right? Like TCU is another good example of a team, frankly. Like TCU is kind of like Diet Coke St. John's in a lot of ways. It's a good sort of starter course to the main meal. I understand why people think St. John's can beat Duke. I think that if Duke turns the ball over the way that they have, that there's a real path to St. John's beating Duke. So I understand also, again, St. John's over the last month has been playing like a top 10 team. They should have the confidence that they can come in and beat a team like Duke, especially given that, again, Duke had some injuries, but like Duke limped, through some of these last few games. Again, due to injury, but like perception is reality, right? Like, if the nation sees Duke like limp against FSU and sort of struggle against Virginia a little bit, and then obviously the Siena game was an abject disaster. The first half against TCU was not great. I mean, like, there's reasons for fans of other teams to be excited about the opportunity of maybe knocking off a Duke. I get it. But I do think that Duke is, and maybe this Duke team more than many other Duke teams of late, I would say, is equipped to deal with physicality, assuming that Pat is on the floor. If Pat's not on the floor, then the trickle down effect of losing him in terms of the physicality battle is pretty stark. Again, Malik has acquitted himself generally well in some games like this with teams that want to play really physical. Like Henry Vasar from UNC is a very physical player. And in the second game, I thought Malik acquitted himself quite well against Henry. So maybe he busts some of that out against Zuby. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I don't blame St. John's fans or sports radio for being very optimistic and for picking their team. And given that sports media can't just pick all 4 1 seeds, like they just can't.
Sure.
And I saw there was a CBS video. I forget what round it was. Maybe it was right after the first round games, which makes it all the more dire. But they were like, if a 1 seed loses early, who's the first 1 seed?
Oh yeah, that was before the tournament.
Was that before the tournament? Yeah. I mean, so there was a CBS video on Instagram Reels or whatever, and they asked everybody. They asked Rothstein, all the people, and every single one of them picked Duke, but every single one of them also said, due to health concerns, I'm going to pick Duke.
That's why I didn't. That's why I didn't dunk on it on Twitter. They added that, and I was like, all right, it's a
correct. Yeah, the people that said that, I mean, again, my guys from 3-Man Weave, 2 of them also picked St. John's, again, sort of citing Duke's health concerns. Now the third one, who's a Duke hater, did pick Duke to make the Final Four, so then they can be objective too. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm worried about the game just because I want to see how Pat holds up. I want to see how we don't turn the ball over. But like the physicality is not necessarily, except how it creates turnovers, right? Like that. Yeah. How the physicality creates turnovers might be a problem, but other than that, I'm not concerned about being bullied necessarily.
Right.
Yeah. We
But
have been bullied in some games, but we've also done the bullying in some games.
yeah, for most of them. I mean, I'm definitely interested to see how Dylan Mitchell is used as a defender because, like you said, they're not a team that allows you just to pass the ball around and find your shot. And he's one of those people. He likes to be in the gaps, jump passes, create those transition buckets. But will he be guarding Cam? Will he be guarding Pat? Will they put it? I think it'll be easier for them to put him on Malik when he's not in the game and just have him kind of sit back and kind of be just a rover on defense. A little bit harder to do with Pat because Duke can just invert that and put Cam on the perimeter and just have Pat in the low block and abuse whoever has that ball. But it'll be interesting how they use him. I know Patino's gonna try to probably use him to muck it up, but he's also on the offensive side, not a threat unless he's
outside of the glass and I mean, I kind of suspect, and again, maybe I'll be wrong because again, throughout the course of the season, they prefer to let teams just like try to shoot, try to take away the three, and I don't think they're going to do that against Duke. So they're probably going to do things differently than they normally do anyway. Or they could take away Duke's threes and dare Duke to win inside. I would love that. I would love that. They should consider it. I kind of think they just put Dylan Mitchell one-on-one with Cam. I don't think they're a team that likes to double. Now, they've never faced a Cam Boozer, but like they want to try to put you on an island and dare you to beat Dylan or Zuby or whoever one-on-one. I mean, like, I kind of think they're still going to do that unless Cam starts really cooking them, and then they'll change. But like, they have the athletes and the size and the strength to try to do solo coverage on Cam and to try to like wear him down that way, because they could just throw bodies too, right? Even if Cam gets a switch, like Bryce isn't small. Like I think Cam would cook Bryce, but like on individual possessions, like Bryce could still be annoying. Obviously, if Zuby gets on him, that's going to be tough for Cam. If he's by the rim,
that'll be interesting. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure there's a guy on this in college basketball unless they're like on Yetso that is going to give Cam trouble one-on-one, because if Cam could still muscle you to the rim and you can't recover and shot block, you don't have a 7'5" wingspan, he's going to do what he wants, which he could do with Dylan Mitchell. Zuby is the one where, okay, they're the same size pretty much, but Zuby's not jumping off the ground to swat Cam like he's on Yetso. But I don't know. We'll see.
And even on Yensa wasn't guarding one-on-one. He was kind of waiting, weak side on some of those while like one or two guys were swarming him. I mean, like if St. John's wants to do that, I think it would cause turnover. So maybe they would consider that. But I just kind of think they want to force Duke to win in ISO, even if it's Cam. Like the sort of thing where they go, okay, well, if Cam wants to score 25-30 and beat us that way, okay, but like we're not going to give Isaiah Evans open shots. We're not going to let Caden or Caleb, if he's back, just like waltz into the paint and get like, I don't know. I kind of feel like that's going to be their approach, and that worries me. I mean, I do think that it would be great for Cam statistically, but they also just have a lot of bodies to throw. I have no doubt in any game that Cam Boozer will get his. Like, I have no doubt that he'll be productive, especially with Pat back. If Pat's not on the floor, then obviously they could just go like Zuby on Cam and see about that, right? I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see what they choose to do, but I suspect maybe no doubles from St. John's, at least not at first, or maybe not at stretches. Maybe they do try it at first just to get some quick turnovers and then roll from there. But Cam's just so good at passing out of that and finding an easy dunk, and St. John's just does not want to allow that at all. So I don't know. I think they're going to make us. That's the other thing that when people say like physicality, I think it just translates to like they make you work for it. They really make you work for it in a
Yeah.
way that other teams just can't, that aren't like physically capable of doing, you know.
Right.
So Duke will have to work for it for sure.
Yeah.
They can't come out sloppy against the St. John's. Although I think I messaged you, or maybe it was in the Discord or something, where when they went up like 18 points or whatever against Kansas, I was like 7-minute drought incoming. And sure enough, they didn't score for the next like 6 minutes or whatever, and Kansas was like almost tied again, something like this. My numbers might be off there, but like
it's probably somewhat accurate. I mean,
it's in the ballpark. Duke could definitely pull that against St. John's also, for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, they don't. It's weird because they do have individual scoring talents. I mean, Bryce Hopkins, Zuby, Ian Jackson is pretty good. Like, you know,
when he's cooking, I mean, for sure.
Was it Zellers or Sellers?
Sellers, yeah.
Yeah, he was in the ACC as well. Sonone was a pretty good scorer at Arizona State. They have the individual scoring time, but collectively they just stink as an offensive team. They just do.
Well, it's because they all like to score by going inside, right? Like they're all hoopers, you know. Like none of them. I mean, like they're all like okay shooters. They're all like 33%, 34% from three, like that kind of thing. But they're also all guys that, you know, if I'm Duke, you know, just wall up and force them to beat you from three. And then if St. John's makes, you know, 10 threes, then you just tip your cap and say, okay, I mean, you made your shots, you know. Like I think that playing the math game there is going to be more advantageous. I think, to your point, if they can just get inside and try to finish at the rim. And again, Duke's a great 2-point defense, but like generally speaking, we've seen Duke sometimes when teams can get going against them from two, it's against like hooper types. It's against guys that just can go on ISO and cook. And that is basically all St. John's does. You know, that's not fair, but like they actually get a good amount of assists. So that's not a fair comment, but they have a lot of guys who could do it, is my point.
But
Hopkins in particular, like, like I'll be interested to see who Dame guards in this game. I know that they generally like him on point of attack. So like maybe on Dylan Darling, but like,
I don't know.
Like I would kind of just want to see him on Bryce, man. I don't know. Like Bryce Hopkins is the one guy on offense that can get really scary. Like even back to Providence, like we've seen it, you know. I don't know, but Duke kind of just does its own thing in that regard. So I don't know.
I mean, they kind of saw. I mean, with Doty wasn't initially Dame's assignment. Then, you know, they saw what he was, and it was like, all right, Dame, second half, put him on.
There was an interesting choice. Again, like I understand why, because their point guard is also really good. Dylan Darling is a guy who's obviously made a couple of clutch baskets, but like he's not.
It's not really a scoring threat.
Yeah, so like if you put him on Dylan Darling to try to cut the head off the snake, like I just have too many guys who are effective with the ball in their hands. I don't know. Like it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. I'd put Caden on Dylan Darling and let Dame be on Hopkins, but I'm also not a high major D1 basketball coach. So
we'll see. It's a lot of interesting matchups that can happen in this game. Before we get to the calls, because we have a couple calls, I'll announce how you guys could win a chance at getting tickets to Friday's game. So the first instruction, you got to be subscribed to the Crazy Cast YouTube channel. This is where the preview is gonna live. Shout out to, you know, where our show failed the 68 podcast network, but you know, we're talking about the Crazy Cast YouTube channel, the specific Crazy Cast YouTube channel. Comment your @ handle and social media platforms. So if you tell me your @ handle is @DukeBetter, don't just tell me your handle is @DukeBetter. Tell me, what is that coming from? Is it Twitter? Is it even TikTok? Is it, you know, Instagram? Comment that social media platform. Like the video as well, and we will select the winner randomly. Obviously, the game is coming up soon, so we'd like to select the winner by tomorrow. So make sure you do that. This is random. So I've seen people pitch me in my DMs like, bro, I'm sorry. I know some of you have good stories. I can't do that. It's not fair to everybody. So we will pick a winner randomly, but just follow those steps. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll be checking. Comment your handle, which media platform, like the video, and we will select the winner on this specific video. No other video, just this video. But yeah, go and do that. We appreciate y'all. Let's jump to the callers because there were a couple good questions in there. Shout out to the people that called this morning. Let me pull up the notes today. So just straight ball talk. Straight ball talk. First caller. Let's go with Mike Zone 1212.
Yo, it's Mike Zone. What do you guys think about Pat returning? I feel like every time he fell, I thought he was injured or there might be a chance he could hurt his foot. Like, I wonder if there's still something there, more than just a sore foot. Also, what do you guys think about Cephas returning? You guys actually think he could return Friday or Sunday or this season for that matter? I think if he returns, we definitely got a chance to get a chip for real. And then also the turnovers. Cam, Pat, and Malik had about 9 to 11 turnovers combined against TCU. I don't know what the hell is up with that. I don't know if it's just TCU's defense, but man, if we get that against St. John's, we could be in serious trouble. They gotta stop turning the ball over, man. Let me know what you guys think. Deuces.
TCU actually forces a higher rate of turnover than St. John's does, for whatever that's worth.
Just because they blitz everything.
Yeah. So I think that that's kind of interesting, in a way that I don't anticipate this. Pat's first game back. Cam's been a little fast and loose with some of his passes lately. I think he tries to look for some home runs in the same way, frankly, that Malik kind of does from time to time.
Malik has some bad turnovers.
We've talked about that on this show. You can count on 1 to 2 a game where it's
but not even the backdoor cuts. Him trying to throw the ball down court. Him and Cam, the past 2 games, ACC tournament, they're just throwing the ball down court aimlessly on a rebound. Why?
Yeah. I don't know if it's just because maybe we credit TCU. Maybe they've disrupted, what Duke's break, looks like. And so Cam anticipates a guy being there that just isn't. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at some of those. I kind of think it's just going for home runs. Yeah, the Malik ones that kill me are when he's saving the ball and he throws it right to the other team. But hey, he's out there fighting, man. Look, we talked about the turnovers some already. Will Cephas play? I don't know, but look, if he's back, there is smoke, and if he's back, maybe he just plays like Darren Harris's level minutes, right? Maybe he plays 8 minutes, just sort of gets back out there a little bit, that'd be great. I think that would be with all respect to Darren. I think using Caleb's ball handling in a game like this would be great. Not to mention some of the lateral quickness on defense that Caleb does have the potential to bring, assuming that he's healthy. So yeah, healthy adjacent, healthy enough to play, right? So we'll see about Cephas. In terms of Pat getting hurt again, that could happen any game. He's out there to fight. He's playing through. I'm sure he's playing through pain. Yeah. But every game's the last game, man. So, and for him, it very well may be every game's the last game of his college career. So he's got a lot. I don't know that to be true necessarily, but the tea leaves, it certainly could be true. So he's got to be motivated to just play through it, and hopefully it all works out.
Yeah, overall pads look fine to me. It's just moving wise. I think he's
He
even
moved
when I,
like normal. Yeah.
yeah, even when I saw him pregame, he caught a lob. I was like, oh yeah, he's good. He's good. So I'm not too worried about Big Pat. Caleb, we'll see. Like Russ said, we don't know. Carlos Boozer, I think he came back Sweet 16, but I think he was hurt maybe like a week or two before Caleb. Just in terms of dates. So, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I'm not putting it past him. The fact that Shire said it and then Coach K said it right after,
Yeah.
it's there's a chance. There seems like there's a very possible chance, and if it's not Friday, maybe it's even Sunday if they win on Friday. So we'll never know. I do think confidently though if we do make to the Final Four and he doesn't play, I think there's a pretty good chance he'll be back for the Final Four. But we'll see. We're not doctors. Next
No. I have no interest in being a doctor.
Next caller, Mark. Shout out Mark.
Hey guys, Russ, I hope your wife's thumb is healing up quickly. I can confirm firsthand there's a new, different kind of anxiety when you're hoping that the Duke game ends before your flight takes off, and thankfully it did. But that anxiety is nothing compared to approaching what should be a pretty impressive Sweet 16 and Elite 8 if we get there. Honestly, my concern, like St. John's is a really good team, but it's more if Duke plays their game, I think they'll be fine. My primary concern is just hoping that Cam Boozer has enough gas in the tank. I mean, we saw it a lot in the past that Duke stars that had played hard all season would just be running on fumes by this point in the season, and Duke would bow out. So the rest of the team has stepped up very nicely, Siena game notwithstanding. So I'm hopeful that Cam has enough gas to play up to 4 more games. Very excited for Friday. And last thing I'll point out is, no, the first one seed that won their game by 6 in the first round is in Sweet 16, and the one seed who won their first round game by 59 is not. So that's pretty funny. Thank you, and go Duke.
Shout out to you, Mark. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
Enough with the historical evidence to show why Duke people. I think even the number was most of the teams that maybe struggled in the first or one seed struggled in the first game lose the next game. I saw a stat like that.
Yeah, they don't make the Final Four.
Yeah.
For sure. I think they never have, but also I don't know that the way I like to look at it is if Virginia had beat UMBC and then got DeAndre Hunter back,
Yeah.
because he wasn't in that game. Like if suddenly they got DeAndre Hunter back, do people still think that Virginia would just like roll over and die? I mean, like that's a pretty sizable omission in the roster. Now they should have still beat UMBC, and we shouldn't have had that embarrassing performance against Siena. But it's the tournament. I think getting 2 guys back, especially if we get 2 guys back, sort of resets that historical thing. I do think that Duke historically struggles against teams like this. I think that that's fair. But I do think, as we said earlier, this team is maybe better equipped to deal with physicality than, I'm trying to think of the last team that would be as equipped to deal with this degree of physicality. You have to go back a ways.
Yeah, it has to be when the ACC was like a war every night.
Yeah, even if you go back to I don't know, like that Wendell Carter team maybe, because they had a lot of interior stuff. Obviously 2015 was pretty darn tough as well. But yeah, you have to go back a ways for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too concerned about the history really just because of this. Now, I think that the concern about it is Cam's tank running a little low. I think that's probably a fair concern. I just think that Cam Cam has more in his tank to start the season than normal human beings do. He's just kind of a freak in that regard. So I don't know. I'd say 15% concerned about that. Like a little, but not enough. Not
Yeah,
enough.
I'm not. I wouldn't even say that for me because it's just like number one, he's 19.
Yeah.
It's not like he's an age, kid, but and
He's
like
not
his
23. Yeah.
his drive and passion, like he'll never let fatigue be the reason why. I think more so his struggles were because okay, now Duke there's more tape on them now without Pat. And the
Yeah.
presence of Pat and what he brings, like you saw the second half, Cam looked like himself, and the game just came so easy, much easier because Pat was right next to him. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Cam also just like, I know this is such a dumb, like this is not in the analytics or whatever. So Cam finds ways to win.
he
I
does.
do think that there is to some, like, winning is contagious. Like we saw that with High
Mhm.
Point this year. Like, and we saw that obviously they couldn't beat Tennessee, but like Miami, Ohio beating an SMU, SMU is not really a winning program, and Miami had won a gajillion games this year, including a bunch of close games. Like if you are a winner, you find ways to win generally. Like,
Yeah,
and High Point almost won another game. I mean, like, I think that Cam Boozer, because you look at his history of winning, and because of just sort of the diversity of his skill set and the way the roster is constructed around him, especially when Pat's out there, that sort of thing is just, you can't teach a guy knowing how to win. I mean, like,
right.
that doesn't mean we will win, but that does give me a lot of confidence in a way that, like, other high load players that Duke has had in the past, they just don't have the history of winning at literally every level, literally every year, the way that Cam and Caden do. So
Yeah, it's definitely a trait to factor in. Like we've seen it all year. Um, Next caller, Abel.
Yo, what's up, Crazy Cast? Seems like the media just keeps talking about how this is a nightmare matchup for Duke. Um, when I think it's a nightmare matchup for St. John's. Can you guys talk a little bit about the front court matchup and how you see that playing out? Appreciate you guys, and go Duke.
yeah, thanks,
Appreciate
Abel.
you.
I think we covered that pretty well already.
Yeah, pretty much. I honestly think the game is not going to be one in the front court. It's going to be the other guys, the wings and the guards. But it'll
Well, I
be
think it'll be the turnovers, and the front court does contribute a lot of those for Duke.
yeah,
So, I mean, in that respect, maybe some front court. But yeah, I mean, I think if Duke can take care of the ball, Duke will have a substantial advantage. It's just that that's easier said than done against a team like St. John's.
right. Next caller, Bennett Dean.
My question isn't about St. John's, but I want to know what you guys think are the chances we see Foster this weekend or next weekend if we make the Final Four. Me personally, I think I'd put a percentage chance of him playing this weekend about 35%,
Oh, wow.
just because, I mean, his surgery was 2 weeks ago, so I think it's kind of unlikely we see him this weekend. But I think if they were to make the Final Four, I'd say that probably bumps up to about 50%. And even if he plays limited minutes, that would be fantastic. But I just want to know your guys' thoughts.
When did the surgery be? 3 weeks ago at this point? Was it March
I don't
7th?
remember.
Yeah, March
Yeah.
7th.
By the time we play again, it will have been 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. We said we're not
Without
doctors.
knowing what his injury actually was, like, then I can't say, right?
Even if I knew what it was, I don't got the degree to tell.
Yeah, sometimes dudes return from an ACL after 8 months, and sometimes it takes them a year and a half. I mean, like, I don't know. Medicine is not my field. I do think that the smoke suggests that there's a chance we would see him this week. But I'm not getting my hopes up until I actually see him out there and see what he can do, right? If he's 50% of his normal self, then like he should probably just rest, like
I do think it's a situation where I don't think he's gonna come back healthy. I mean, like fully healthy, just because as a guard too, like you're gonna need that foot moving around as much. So and obviously, like I think conditioning wise, he's not gonna be in conditioning. But kind of like Russ said before, if it's just like 8 to 10 minutes he gives, then I think that'll be
huge. That'd be huge if we could get that.
that'll be valuable. But yeah, the fact there is smoke, like I said, I think it bodes well for if Duke advances past this weekend without him. But yeah, we don't know. We don't know this weekend. We'll see.
And one game at a time, I'm not really looking forward to like, but if we get him back and it's the Final Four, like there's so much basketball before then and two absolutely brutal, tough games before then. So, I'm most interested to see if he can come back Friday. And the answer is I don't know.
Yeah. Next caller, Anonymous.
What do you guys think the crowd split is going to be in DC? I got my tickets to the game, definitely pumped to go. Also, how do you truly think St. John's finds a way to score?
The crowd split is an interesting topic because I think we talked about that a little bit in the Discord. I personally think, and especially of late, I saw some UConn fan page today put out, we got to root for St. John's. Like, let's show up.
Hurley said that, dude.
Yeah, Hurley said it too. So I feel like Duke is going to be mostly everyone against Duke in DC, but
it'll be a road game.
Yeah, it will. I don't see any other way.
I'd love to be wrong on that. Like Duke does travel well. DC is pretty close to Duke, right? So maybe it's more of a split than I would think. But I just have to think because St. John's and UConn both travel really well too.
Yeah.
And the sport, I mean, like, and Michigan State's no joke in that respect.
Who also hate us.
Yeah, and also hate us. I know that St. John's UConn is not Duke UNC, right? Granted, that goes without saying. If it was Duke UNC queued up in the Elite Eight, and John Shire had said we need to root for UNC so that we can get a Duke UNC matchup in the Elite Eight, I would have tossed my laptop out the window as a Duke fan, and I would have been. I'm not saying that's a fireable offense, but it's fireable adjacent. It's mockable. If we had him back on the show, I would ask him to his face on the show, how can you do that and sleep at night? Again, St. John's UConn is not the same animal as Duke UNC, so maybe it's different. I don't know, but I find it really interesting that
very weird.
What he should have just said, frankly, in my opinion, is last time they beat the brakes off us, and I want another chance. I
if he said that, I would expect it.
Yeah. I don't like how that ended, and I want to beat him up. So let's go. But to play that card, I thought was kind of interesting. I don't know, but again, maybe it's different because they don't have a rivalry with St. John's like the Duke UNC rivalry or whatever.
Sure.
If it was Virginia, but I still wouldn't even if it was Virginia.
Anybody, NC State, like no.
This whole conference pride thing is so lost on me. It's lost on me, man. I want all of them to lose and get humiliated. That's all I ever want.
Unless there's a tie-in like Jay Lucas, I want Jay Lucas to win. No.
Don't you think? I would think that Hurley would want to play Duke, man. I would think
that's what I was like. I was like, yo, this is the opportunity. But this also kind of tells us there's been like rumors like someone's ducking somebody. Shire, I think 2 years ago, kind of alluded to it, like he was waiting for.
I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of jockeying and stuff like that behind the scenes that I'm not privy to, but I don't know. If you wanted a bloodbath that would get a lot of eyeballs, like Duke UConn would be the highest rated game of the year.
Oh yeah,
it would get more ratings than any other game all year, including maybe Final Four and championship potentially, like depending on those matchups. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting. How did we get on this? I don't even remember how we got on this.
He asked about the crowd split.
Yeah.
But he also asked how is St. John's going to score? We kind of already did.
We did. They'll score on the offensive glass if we don't grab defensive rebounds, and they'll score in transition if we turn the ball over. In terms of pure half court shooting, maybe they get hot from three. It happens. But they're generally not a very good 3-point shooting team. They don't shoot a lot of threes. They want to win from two. Duke is very good at defending the two, generally speaking, especially with Pat out there. So that's how they score. I mean, it's putbacks and it's runouts. And if Duke can avoid both of those, and again, Duke's been very good at avoiding both of those, then I think Duke can certainly prevent them from scoring. And then the question becomes, how does Duke score against a St. John's team that is very equipped to defend Duke? And I think that's maybe even the more interesting question as far as I'm concerned. But we'll see.
We will see. Final caller. Mr. Greg.
Love the pod. I'm hearing a lot about Pitino's press, and I'm sure it's a really good press. He's a great coach. But
it's a special press.
Pat can handle. Pat can pass. Cam's got great handle. Cam can pass. Caden's got great handle. Caden can pass. And potentially Foster can handle and pass. I'm not too worried about it. Maybe I'm naive. Anyway.
Pat's not handling against this press. Pat's not handling against this press. I love Pat. I've been talking about how great and valuable Pat is. If Pat tries dribbling the ball against some of these dudes, it's barbecue chicken alert, man. I'm sorry. Like, there's just no chance. Even, like, what we've got is a lot of guys who are pretty good at dribbling positionally, right? But they're also guys that aren't exactly, like, I don't know, man. Cam bringing up the ball, if like Dylan Mitchell is completely dedicated to like trying to get the ball from him. Now maybe Cam's very good at drawing fouls, so maybe that would play out all right. But like they're just really good at disrupting more than anything else. Again, their turnover rate forced on the year is like sub 100th on KenPom in terms of turnover rate, but like, they just disrupt and they get in your grill and they use their physicality to make you take bad shots and to force you into ISO possessions. And the press, more than anything, yes, it generated turnovers in a big way against Kansas and can do that against a team like Duke. But more than anything, it gets you out of what you want to do. Like, Duke wants to slow the game down. So if St. John's is pressing so hard and then even in the half court, they're getting up in your grill, you're going to want to exploit, like, your human instinct is going to be get the ball to somebody else because somebody else has to be more open than me. And then you get a little sped up and then you're not quite running that slow down offense that you want to do. So like, that's what St. John's can do. And that's the thing that's a little alarming, but that's the problem.
You're also not going to out dribble St. John's press. You're
no.
It's passing, kind of like this. This was a weaker press. It's a very
now this press sucks.
This was a bad press, but like essentially
from an undisciplined bad team that shouldn't have been in the tournament. But
but like it's aggressive and they start from the inbound. Like it'll be a struggle to inbound the ball. Then you have to make sure you're not getting trapped in the corner, because if you catch that ball in the corner, it's over. That's where St. John's is just gonna they're gonna force a turnover, get a quick bucket, and they'll jump right back in the press. They're so disciplined. Like every time the ball goes through the hoop, press. Like it's not gonna be, there's not gonna be any weakness about it. So yeah, Duke, I don't know what the game plan is to break it. I'm sure that's Shire's job, but it is not
with the pace that Duke plays. Even on a miss, they might try to like apply pressure. I mean, like they won't be able to set up their normal thing, but like if I look, the one thing that Duke doesn't have this year is like elite athleticism, right? Like outside of like Dame, we've got some athletes, don't get me wrong, but like we don't have the speedster, right? We don't have the guy who really leaps out of the building. We just don't have that guy. And St. John's is a bunch of athletes and strong athletes at that. So like a guy like Caden, who I think is great, who has been incredible. He's not the fastest player. No. And he is still a freshman, and he will have somebody who is a senior who is very experienced at getting the ball away from people in his grill, trying to get the ball away from him.
Yeah.
That's tough. I mean, same for Cam, same for Nick, who also has been handling the ball more. I mean, this is where Caleb would be helpful. Caleb is, I think, side to side, maybe outside of Dame, the fastest guy on the team.
Definitely the quickest with the ball in his hands.
He's definitely the quickest with the ball in his hands, and he's generally, as an individual, not turnover prone. Not this year anyway. So it would be great to have him back. Yeah, man. I don't know. I'm just not dismissing their defense and how it will impact our offense. I think that the other way also is true, but like I do expect them to disrupt our offense.
Yeah. It'll be very interesting to see what we scheme against the press, but yeah, there'll be no dribbling. So, Greg, I'm sorry, brother. Don't don't try to play
If
it
they
down.
try to run Duke off the three, I mean, that's also why they prevent teams from shooting threes, right? Is because if the team is passing the ball around the perimeter, they're up in their face, which then
Right.
means that a team is going to try to get inside instead. I can't anticipate that, but that's also in their DNA. So maybe that's, I don't know. And if that happens, I kind of do like Duke's chances a little bit more to create offense if they're pressing really hard outside the perimeter.
I will say Cade is not the fastest, but he's probably one of the most poised freshman guards I've seen in a while.
is.
He doesn't get sped up. He is similar to Tyus in that, right? Like, both of them not being the most athletic people, but they play at their own pace. So it'll be interesting to see. Keeping their composure will be a big part of this game, because St. John's is the type of team they'll steal it. They'll steal it from that press 3 times in a row. So how would Duke respond to that if that happens? Are they gonna get flustered? Are they gonna stay composed and just keep to their identity? So it'll be interesting. We'll see. But I'm still very confident in this matchup. Very, very confident in this matchup for sure.
Yeah, Caden also, like, low key. He, again, it's a freshman thing, but like his turnover rate is over 19%. I mean, that's for a guy, for a guard on Duke. I was trying to like go back and look at like a comp to see, like, if you had to go back to like, sophomore year Wendell Moore maybe, or like, like he turns it over maybe a little bit more than one would think.
Yeah.
And when he's handling the ball, which again is a bit concerning. If Caleb can't play and he has to be the primary guy. But again, to your point, he's not going to break the press by dribbling out of it. There's no way. If he tries to do that, or if Duke tries to do that, then we might be cooked. But Duke has not tried to do that all year. Some teams have tried to press and we've passed out of it because everybody can pass. So yeah, that in that respect, that does bode well for us against a press, as long as they're not making those insane home run passes, and instead just
none of that, man. But I'm not gonna lie, I do expect a couple of those. And I was thinking, I was like, there might be some situations, given that Cam is like the best outlet passer, we've seen in college, just like Kevin Love. There might be some situations where Cam is gonna throw the deep pass to like a Dame down the court. I can see it.
I mean, this is the impact of St. John's defense too, right? Because like if you have to face it every possession and you think you can get a transition bucket, then you're going to go for it. But then you're playing into their hands of speeding the game up. It's just going to take a lot of discipline to avoid that, and a lot of toughness and everything else. And again, if we're settling for threes like we did against Siena first half or something like that, they better be falling. Otherwise, you're going to dig yourself a hole against a team like St. John's. You just are.
Right. Yeah. But we'll see. Friday is the big game. As I said, and I'll put one more time for those, watching, or if you're listening. If you're listening, you better, hurry up and get to YouTube and comment. To win a chance to get tickets to Friday's game, subscribe to the Crazy Cast YouTube channel. Comment your social media @handle and what platform you are referencing. Like the video, and we will select a winner randomly on Wednesday. So we'll give you some time to get the fix your travel to DC. Hopefully it's not someone that's like across the country, because with TSA right now, it's hell. But we appreciate y'all. We'll be back Friday after the game, Friday night, hopefully a victory, and hopefully we'll have 2 more episodes for y'all this weekend. So we appreciate y'all for supporting us, and we'll be back soon. Go do.
I'm gonna go take a nap.
Go take a nap, brother.